Hi, we're here today to talk to a very special guest, Dr. Howard Lodewyk, formerly a professor in the AEC department and now retired, but someone who has spent a lot of time studying Kearton's adoption innovation theory. As you recall, we asked you to take the Kearton Adoption Innovation Inventory, or KAI, before class began. And the reason we did that is because adoption innovation is related to one of the main concepts of this class, organizations and organizational change. And I've asked Dr. Lodewyk here to talk to us a little bit about that relationship. Dr. Lodewyk, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how Kearton's theory applies to this class.
Okay, be glad to do that. As you know, a class on change takes a look at how do we solve problems. If everything is going well, we don't need to change. Just maintain what we have. Unfortunately, the global economy changes things whether we want them to or not. Open systems, semi-closed systems, etc. As we look at change, a problem comes to us. There's two ways, basically, we can solve this problem, and this is what Michael Kearton does with KAI. We can solve the problem by making things better, adaptation. We can adapt what we're doing to improve it. Or we can solve a problem by doing it differently. As we look at people in life, we find that there are some who would prefer to solve problems by making things better, and some who would solve problems by doing them differently. Kearton tells us that when we bring this group of people together to solve problem A, we need to make a change in how we do business for some reason or other. We also create problem B, getting along with each other. What Kearton's research has found is that people who are adaptive in nature have certain personality characteristics that are different from those who prefer to solve things by doing them differently. It is this intermix of interaction between people who cause problem B to occur. And so by knowing our characteristics, whether we're an adapter or an innovator, that is not as important because it's not a measure of intelligence, it's a measure of preferred style of problem solving. Some of us prefer to solve a problem by trying to make things better. Others of us prefer to solve a problem by doing them differently. If you'll recall from the KAI, there are three components of your score. And it is these three components. Your preferred style of problem solving is based on how many ideas can you work on? How important are rules to you? And how important is efficiency of operation to you? These three sub-areas are extremely important to us as we try to solve a problem. Because people who prefer working on one or two ideas at a time are driving people who prefer 8 or 9 ideas at a time crazy. On the other hand, people who are highly innovative throw out a suggestion that may or may not work. People who are highly adaptive would never throw an idea out that they didn't think would work. That drives them crazy. The greater the diversity of the group, the higher the leadership and management skills of those in charge must be. At the same time, those who are not part of the leadership management must bring their own leadership skills to play because now we have teams where oftentimes none of us is in charge. That does not excuse us from the solving of the problem. So how do we get along? How do we compromise, bend, not compromise? When do we stand our ground? Everyone in this class has had a time when they were the only ones saying what they had to say. Mm-hmm. Boy, that's lonely. But perhaps you're right. Or were you just stubborn? Change can be very, very challenging to us.
And knowing a little bit about the preferred problem-solving styles of those that you're working with, or those you're supervising, or those who are supervising you, might help you navigate those waters a little bit better, wouldn't you think?
I agree totally, because I can now understand what you're looking for. If you are a high adapter, I know not to throw an idea at you like brainstorming. We just throw ideas out whether it'll work or not. Adapters are not comfortable with that. At the same time, people who are highly innovative are not comfortable with paying attention to the rules to begin with. Let's look at the rules later, they would say, the efficiency of things. And so we must understand each other's approach to solving problems and see where we can work together in terms of, okay, you only want 1 or 2 ideas at a time, let's start with that. On the other hand, maybe all of these ideas need to be looked at in a different perspective, so maybe we can just throw 10 out there and go from there. If we do that, how uncomfortable does that make our group?
Right.
The number one rule is once you pass a judgment that excludes somebody from your group, you're now weaker than you were before. We have everybody in the group for a reason. Let's not exclude them on purpose.
Good point. Last question. I know that Kirtan talks about the KAI as a continuum, and I wonder if you could just explain what that means.
Okay. On this continuum from high adapter to high innovator, we have degrees of things. And so, for one example, if I'm in a group of people who are all highly adaptive, I am now become an innovator in that group, even though I have an adaptive score. And so, if there's more than 10 points apart on our scores, we think a little bit differently. Even if we're both highly adaptive, but we're more than 10 points apart, we'll have a little difficulty communicating. We can all get along. When something comes up that may be a little controversial, now emotions comes into play and we're looking for reasons to not get along. The greater the difference in our score on this continuum, the harder we must work to communicate with each other.
I'm sure we've all been in a position where we've found it difficult to communicate with someone we may be working with, or a colleague, or even somebody in our own family. KI is a personality construct that helps us understand that a little bit, and I think you'll find it interesting as you take a look at your score and the handouts that explain a little bit of what that score means, and try to relate it to your own personal and professional situations. Adaption innovation is a thread that we're going to be talking about more as the course goes along, but I want to thank Dr. Lodewig for giving us some insights into how the theory works and how we can apply it. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure.